Yeah, you can start now.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Anka, for inviting me to do a second session today on trading mindset and trading psychology. It's such a big topic. I can talk about it for years. So um, I shared with you last session around emotional mastery. And this is another piece to emotional mastery, what I call cognitive dominance. I found this term on something that I read about Navy SEALs. So cognitive dominance is a term from war, yeah, pretty much from the war, or how Navy SEALs deal in dangerous situations. And I thought this is so useful for traders. And then I did a lot of research into cognitive dominance and how we can use it for trading. So before we get started, as always, I need to share my general advice disclaimer. In a nutshell, it says that I'm not responsible for anything, and it's all yours. So we know what disclaimers say. Don't need to spend time on that. So today I want to share with you why trading success is so elusive for traders, and how successful traders use cognitive dominance to conquer their discipline without even knowing. And then I'm teaching you a few steps on how to develop your cognitive dominance. And as always, when you have, or if you have any questions, please feel free, put it in the chat box and I'll answer your questions as well as I can within the frame of time we have. So I don't want to spend any time on me. Mostly trading the DAX. I'm also trading the Dow. I have been coaching since 2005 for traders. I've been trading since 2002, I think. And so these are the two areas that I spent most of my life in. So one of my favorite quotes is something that my coach at the time from 2010, Steve Ward, always said: everybody knows what to do, and it's doing what you know that is the very skill that sets the winner apart from the loser. And if you're a trader who's currently impulsive, thoughtless, undisciplined, you have an unruly mind, and your mind needs to go to puppy school and conquer discipline. Like I shared with you last time, the beautiful image with Linda Rushke and her two dogs. One dog is well trained, has been to puppy school, and the other one is really naughty and unruly. So this is kind of what our mind is like. Now, the thing is, what we need to consider is, without discipline, the only skill you will succeed in is failing. It's the same everywhere, in every area of life. And you know, we were joking before about this guy who was dancing for the Chippendales, but it's the same in relationships. So I was working with a trader, and he is a very good-looking man and very charismatic, and he's also married and loves his wife, right? And women throw themselves at him, and I always say, I'm actually never worried that my partner is going to cheat on me. I'm more worried about the women throwing themselves on him and so open the temptation. And so, you know, we even need to have discipline in relationships where opportunities open up and we need to say no, even though the temptation is so strong, because it's being human, you know, it's not being a bad person, a good person. It's just being human. Like when there's a block of chocolates, I naturally want to eat it. And it's about discipline where I make my decisions, and which is, you know, another really big topic we could dive into. It's our values that then define and decide which decisions we make. But that's for another time, okay? Now, today we will explore how you can train yourself to improve your discipline. And there's three key areas you're going to dive into are really the areas that a Navy SEAL would look into. Now, the statistics show that it's still 75% of traders who fail. And these are statistics based on the UK brokers, because as you know, UK brokers now have to share their statistics. I think it's every month. And so we have really solid data on what the performance of traders is. Now, the 25% of traders, we don't know how well they're performing, because you could make $1 profit and then you're in the top 25% of traders in the world, right? But that doesn't help you to have a lifestyle. And so when we look at the difference between successful and unsuccessful traders, so what is it that helps traders to move to the 25% of profitable traders in the world? Well, we need to look at what is the main mistakes that the 75% of failing traders make, and then work on that, right? It's as simple as that. There is so much talk about trading psychology, and I'm guilty of that as well because I love it so much. I love human behavior, and there's so many aspects that I can explore. It's kind of like trading, there's so many different strategies that you can process the market and filter the market through and analyze the market through, and it's the same in trade in human behavior. I have 50 different frameworks that I can work through when I analyze a trader and work with a trader and help them to improve their performance. Now, we want to make it really, really simple. The two main reasons why traders fail is because they're not cutting their losses and because they're martingales or they add to losing trades. That's all there is. And that's really exciting news, because what it means is the only skill the 75% of failing traders need to learn is how to cut their losses, because that means they too can cross over to the winner's side once they've mastered this one skill. Now, what the traders, the broker statistics don't show is how much money traders miss out on when they don't take a trade setup, right? We don't have the data on that. So we need to also consider this part where how much money or how much a trader could have improved if they had taken all their setups that present themselves over the trading session. But again, that's a conversation for another time. Now, for many traders, the reason why they are not cutting their losses or why they are not succeeding, especially in the markets we had in the last few weeks, is the uncertainty rules the decision-making process. Should I take the loss? Should I wait a little? Should I take my profits now, or should I stay in for a little more? And yes, we can have really, really clear um, um, structure on our trading strategy. But as you know, the market is dynamic, and the strategy is not always suited for the same style of market. So it's like surfing. Sometimes you have wild weather and wild waves, and sometimes you don't have as many waves. So you need to have a different approach, a little bit of amending your strategy compared to what is going on in the markets right now. So to give you an example, is I was working with a trader, really amazing trader, and he didn't do well the first 2 weeks, the first 2 days last week when the market's starting to turn. And what he didn't consider was the volatility, because he's never experienced volatility. Now, what does volatility mean? Really simply said, is that if you look at the 1-minute bar of the Dow, it could be something like 100 and 150 points on a 1-minute bar, whereas before it maybe have only been 20 or 30 points. So that is volatility. So he's a technical trader, by the way. So he would put his stop loss above, let's say, a technical level or below a technical level. But because of the volatility, that suddenly blew out, and that really threw him. And once he realized that, then he needed to adjust his money and risk management, and then he was fine, right? So these are examples of uncertainty, that even if you have a clearly defined trading strategy, when the situation changes, then we have to go back and adjust it. And that's experience, right? That was not that him being dumb or him being overly emotional. That was just a lack of experience that we could fill really easily. It was one of those things that we didn't know, as they say in landmarks. So beautiful. Now, if you are one of those traders who are not very disciplined, there's two possibilities. Your exit and your entry rules are not defined enough. So you leave too much room for second guessing, and you need to make your strategy more mechanical. Well, then you need to go and see Anka, right? But if your strategy has clear entry and exit rules, and when I say clear, it has to be as clear as. So if you take a train, and my question that I always love asking my traders is, how do you know when to get onto the train, when to step onto the train? It's when it goes beep, 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 and the doors open. Any minute earlier or later, you're in trouble. And so it's the same with trading. It has to be as clear as doors opening now. Now I get onto the train. Right? And the same when you exit the train. You need to look at, okay, here's my station. And here I get off the train as soon as it goes. Well, it makes beep 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 in Australia. I don't know if it makes beep 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 where you live, but because beep beep beep, doors open, and then your brain automatically knows to move your leg. You don't even need to actively think about now I have to move my leg to step off the train. And you want to have your strategy as clear cut. Now, if that is not the case, and so if that is the case, it's clear cut and you still don't follow your strategy, well, then you need to work on your discipline and you're at the right place here with me. So one way to elicit your performance is, of course, to go back through the trading session, count the number of setups that occurred. Count how many you have not taken, count how many you have entered too early, how many you have entered too late, how many you exited too early, exited too late. And now you have a clearly defined set of statistics that tells you in black and white how your trading performance is and if it is really a matter of discipline or a matter of needing to refine your strategy. Because so many traders that come to me and they say, oh, I need to be more confident. I'm like, what do you mean need to be more confident? Why? Tell me more about that. And they say, well, I always get out of my trades too early, or I always let my losses run. I say, how do you know? And they said, well, I just know. And I said, show me the statistics. Well, I don't have any statistics. Well, now you're just making an assumption. Now you're just feeling bad about yourself. Go and show me, get me the statistics, then we see what's really going on. Yeah, so it's kind of like making an MRI scan of your trading behavior. Now, if the facts of trading tell us that all we have to do is cutting the loss and not martingale into losing trades, adding to losing trades, but adding to winning trades. We all know that we all have read, what's his name? Um, Livingstone, right? What's his name again? You know whom I mean, right? Um, so we all have read him. The name will come back to me, or if someone is so kind to put it into the chat what his name is again. Um, so we know that we have to get out of those losing trades. Well, the question is, why is it so hard for traders to do the one thing that will lead to trading success, to follow through on cutting losing trades? Well, the reasons are twofold. It can be hard to stay strong and focused on your strategy. Jesse Livermore, thank you. You're such a legend. So it can be hard to stay strong and focused on your strategy when you have closed out your trades according to your exit rules. You had a loss, the trade comes back on site, and you effectively get punished for following your rules. I tell you, that happened in the last 2 days because the market has been so volatile. And I know a few traders who have been chasing their tails. They went long, and then the market collapsed, and because they had a long setup, and then the market recovered overnight, but then they were short, and so this is just natural. That happens. But this is effectively being punished, and so we don't want to follow our rules anymore if we get punished for it, right? And another another dimension to consider is the emotional or our genes, what we are made of. What do traders associate pain with? As you know from Tony Robbins, avoiding pain over seeking pleasure is a universal behavioral pattern all humans have in common. It's ingrained in our genes, and that's why so often we keep doing what's hurting us even though we know better. Now, failing traders who find it hard to take a loss associate pain with the action of pressing that mouse button to cut the loss. And if we let it, this can prevent us from ever reaching our true potential and becoming a trading success story in our own right. Now think about it. How will your trading results change once you start cultivating a new mindset? When rather than being afraid of losing money, you're afraid of a life of mediocrity because you took the easy way out, because you didn't protect your capital. What that means is by simply reframing the association of what pain means to you, you can already start changing your behavioral pattern and reduce your losses. That's where it all starts. Because traders who don't have a problem to cut losers, they associate pain with something else. So if you look at any prop trader or hedge fund trader, hedge fund manager, they would associate pain with having a drawdown bigger than 5% because they know that they will lose their job instantly, no questions asked. And so If you are getting into prop trading, there is no clowning around. Like as soon as the drawdown is bigger than is accepted by the firm, you're out. And that's why traders who have been with the firm for a few years, that means simply that they have adhered to the risk profile that the firm gave them. Nothing else. They might not have made money for a year, but they have not lost more than what the firm told them to. Yeah, so because they know that is where successful traders are made of and are born into. So the first step to becoming more disciplined is to associate what you is to identify what you associate your pain with. The pain which blocks traders from being capable to sustain long-term trading success is the inability to experience and move through and knowing that you can handle all the emotions that come with that. So now if we look at cognitive dominance, right, that's the ability of soldiers and systems that can, in a timely manner, outthink the enemy. That's the definition for the Navy SEALs. So it's about harnessing mental skills in order to consistently make rapid and accurate decisions under pressure. Now, how much pressure did we have in the last few weeks, right? So the trader's enemy is those six imaginary voices, and I love Jimmy Jude. Like if you don't really follow Jimmy, you have to follow him. He is so a little bit crude, but he is so spot on. Really good, like in terms of trading mindset, so spot on, and also reading the markets. Now, cognitive dominance for traders is the ability of the rational mind to win over emotions. And so he says, I like to purge my Twitter stream once a week of all the assholes, his words, not mine, that call every little move or nuance in the market. I don't need your running commentary. I already have the six imaginary dickheads talking and fighting in my own head to deal with. And that's really what it's like, isn't it? I don't know if I want to call them dickheads. You know, they can be my friends and can be my enemy, but he just gets it. So let's have a look at these emotions or these voices in our head that we are trying to avoid. Now, anyone who ever felt one of the following emotions, give yourself a thumb up. Guilt, shame, vulnerability, helplessness, anger, embarrassment, disappointment, sadness. We all have been there, right? Now, why those eight emotions? Because according to Dr. Joanne Rosenberg, who is the authority in developing emotional mastery, she explains that they are the most common spontaneous everyday reactions that come up repeatedly in our day-to-day lives, naturally as a reaction to whatever happens in life. And they are usually as a response to things that we feel, they're usually as a response to things that we feel didn't turn out the way we thought we needed them to turn out, where we wanted them to turn out. So again, that's my definition of stress. Stress is fearing that something will happen that you don't want to happen, or fearing something is not going to happen that you want to happen. So that's my definition of stress, and that happens all the time in trading. We wanted something to happen and it didn't. We get upset when the market didn't do what we expected it to do. We get disappointed when we don't get the profit that we needed. We feel helpless when we repeatedly make the same mistakes over and over again. And a stress response is nothing but that fear of not getting what we wanted, or getting something that we didn't want, not getting the profits or getting the loss, and then all that it means for us, letting our families down, experiencing toxic shame. So toxic shame is something that was installed in you during your formative years, usually at an age before 10 years, where you were shamed by your family. And that is something, when you experience guilt or shame, all these feelings, that is just um, an experience from childhood that is repeated and mirrored in your trading. And so Carl Jung has been really strong in identifying what it is. He calls it the compulsion to repeat. And so if you find out what our toxic shame is, what that compulsion to repeat is being caused by, then we can release it and we can heal it and we don't need to do it again, right? So I was sharing last time, I was working with a trader who, she's a really good trader, and her husband passed about, I think it was 12 years ago. And every time she was just about to cross a threshold to become more successful, she would do a self-sabotaging pattern. And as we dive deep, what we found out was that she hadn't dealt with her husband's death as yet. She couldn't. She had 3 little kids. She had to just get on with it. And so for her, becoming successful was unconsciously an experience of not being loyal to her husband's memory, because she hadn't dealt with the grief as yet. And then when we looked even deeper, we could see that that grief that was unresolved was actually something that was a grief that was something that she experienced similarly when she was about 8 years old with another family member. Yeah, so that's the compulsion to repeat. It's that we experience the same feelings over and over again. Now, the question is, how can we overcome this emotional pitfall, become more disciplined? And well, it starts with a change in perspective, a lot of self-awareness, where we understand, so this is how I deal with stress, and this is how I deal with pain. And then looking at, is that helping me to succeed, or is it standing in the way to succeeding? And if it stands in your way of succeeding, of course, you need to have a new stress response, which is practice, practice, practice. So I, when we talk about these moments of where we can't take that losing trade, where we can't get ourselves to take a setup where we are not quite 100% sure about, even though it's a good-looking setup, that is when we can't deal with the pain associated with it, with the emotion associated with it. So rather than letting the emotion be there and do what needs to be done, we respond to the emotion, and we try to avoid feeling that feeling of feeling bad. So I was working with a trader who came to me. He said he wants to be more confident, and then I asked him, so what does confidence mean to you? And he said, well, it means to me that I can take every loss and I don't miss out on any trading setups. Now, this is not what confidence is. Confidence is nothing than a feeling that we project onto a situation. So confidence is not the thing that you need to strive for. What he was striving for unconsciously was, he didn't want to feel bad when taking a trade. He didn't want to feel bad when being in a profit and needing to stick with his strategy. He didn't want to feel bad when being in a losing trade and having to take that loss. That's what he wanted, but confidence is really allowing yourself to feel bad and feel whatever emotions you have, and then to keep going and cut that loss or enter that trade, so do what needs to be done. That's the definition of discipline. And I saw this documentary about this bike rider, girl from Australia, and I think she was in the last Olympics, and she did really badly. And so she went to Switzerland for a year, and she was just doing the mountains over and over again. And she was saying how it hurts up, riding up the mountains, even though she loved the Swiss Alps, right? But it was hurting. And so she would always say to herself, I love this pain. I love the pain in my legs, because I know that makes my pain. I know that pain makes my legs stronger. It will help. It will help me to win the world championships. I am a world champion. I love that pain. So this is what her self-talk was, to conquer that pain and to have that pain and to still do what needs to be done. Now, what I love about this kind of work is that most traders, when they talk about trading success, they think it's the big moments when we hit the big runs, like the 1,000-point moves. Did you catch the 1,000-point move last night? And if you did, you're kind of a hero. Did you catch the 5,000-point drop? Did you get in at the top and get out at the bottom? And then you're kind of a hero. But you know what? It's not that moment when you hit the big profits that are defining, because when do they happen? Once a year, right? If you are lucky, like we had it once in a decade, most probably. And so they are not the defining moments to help you to succeed. It is that most of our success in life is about how we handle those little moment-to-moment situations. We think the big decisions are about which trading strategy to trade, the markets we choose. They're important, of course. I don't want to downplay the importance, but it's did you take your loss or not? Did you take that setup or not? That it all comes down to, that helps you to sustain success, to be consistent, to not have one big win for the year and then not being able to perform for the rest of the year. That is most important. How do you handle yourself when your trade is underwater or when you made a mistake, when you made a stupid mistake? So big decisions are about seizing opportunities, whereas the small decisions are how we manage our feeling and thinking states, the states that break or make us as a trader in every moment of our life. What do you do when you said you get up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym? It's cold and rainy outside, but warm and cuddly in bed. Do you do what you feel like doing in this moment? Or do you do what you said you would do? Do your emotions win? Or do your cognitive powers dominate your weak emotions? Because if you wait until you feel like going to the gym, until you feel like getting up, even though it's cold and rainy, not for you, Anka, of course, living in paradise in Florida, but those guys in the UK or those guys in Chicago who have to go through the winter. It's that moment when you do what needs to be done, when you step up and do it, that's when you become a successful person. Because success in any endeavor means taking the hard way. And if you look at life, right, it's not set up this way. Everything is geared for convenience. Um, you I remember having to get up and change TV channels. So that was my exercise for the night. And now I just sit there with my remote control. I even have a remote control for my fan, for goodness sake. It's like everything is geared for making life easy. And so we learn, we don't learn mental toughness. We don't learn grit. We don't learn cognitive dominance. It's the opposite. We learn to be weak. So let's have a look at how to become really successful. In order to find out how to become successful and to develop cognitive dominance, we need to look at what is it that causes us to be weak and not to be cognitive dominant. Now, as I said, we need to manage our thinking and feeling state. What are the sentences that you think that go through your mind that actually lead you to staying in that trade? Oh my God, the moment I'm going to close out this trade, it's going to turn around, I'm going to profit, I promise. That's what we say to ourselves, right? I'm sure of that. Of course, you're not going to take a loss if you say these things to you. I'm feeling so bad. I don't want to. I want to get out of this losing trade. If that is what you feel, feeling bad about a losing trade or feeling proud of yourself for doing the tough thing, that's your moment-to-moment decision that will make or break you. Then the pessimistic versus the optimistic attitude, of course, where you always look at what's wrong with you and you berate yourself versus, all right, I didn't do this one so well, but I will conquer that. I will conquer myself. I will develop a new behavior, a new habit. Just because I do that right now doesn't mean that I have to do that in the future, because I can change. Dramatizing versus possibility self-talk. So, for example, I was working with a trader yesterday, and that's all unconscious, guys. There's no judgment. Please, don't think that I'm judging you, because I have been through it myself. But for example, I worked with him through his problem of taking a loss. And I said, so what does taking a loss mean to you? And we got to, after diving deep, of course, letting his family down, disappointing them, feeling really ashamed. So that shame was something that was connected to an experience that he had in childhood. So we needed to work on and release that part. But it was also about, it was like a $200 loss would invoke those feelings in him. And now this is dramatizing, because a $200 loss does not mean that you let your family down. And so it's about looking at, is that really true? What is actually true? And his wife, they're married for 30 years. She will not judge him. She's seen at his worst, right? And at his best. She's still with him. So it is all the stories that he made up in his mind, and the stories that kept him small. So we needed to look at what is the safe problem, the secondary gain that he needed to keep himself safe, or presumably safe, by thinking and feeling that. Because it was just a fantasy that it would keep him safe, but in reality it would endanger him, because he would never be able to reach his full potential. Right? Then structure, habits, routines. Every high performer I speak with, may it be in business, may it be in sports, may it be in relationships, right? May it be in trading. They all have certain structures, habits, and routines, even if it is unconscious. It's so important that you learn to embrace that. And then, of course, keep practicing grit, keep practicing resilience, keep practicing mental toughness and cognitive dominance. And I will show you how in a moment. Now, I love this one from Savalny Vishak. It's an Indian guy. He's got the most amazing website. And so he says, if you can't control risk, so if you can't control your returns, but you can control risk, cost, time, and emotions, it beats me why you try to focus on your returns, the thing that you can't control, but completely let go of all the other areas, the risk, the cost, the time, the emotion, your statistics. It's so true, isn't it? Because that is really where the solutions lie. But we don't look at the area where the solutions lie. We only look at the areas where the problems lie. Now, if you always focus on what you can't control and what is missing, you're going to feel overwhelmed and you're going to feel those 8 emotions: pissed off, stressed, helpless, shame, and so on. So you need to identify that if you focus on what you can't control, you will never feel whole and strong. And you need to feel whole and strong if you want to make it in this game of trading, if you want to make it in any high performance discipline. So if we look at the turning point moments, as I call them, so the moments that really make or break you as a trader, those small moments in your trading day, not the big runs. What are those moments? Just a moment, I need to get a drink. That's my defining moment. Okay, so when you look at how failing traders perform or behave and how a lifetime successful trader behaves, because we all know those one-shot wonders who in 2008 made a few $1,000,000 but then could never repeat their performance. We will see traders emerging who made a lot of money in the last 2 weeks, but that's it. They will never succeed because it's kind of like was easy. But what are the traders who sustain on the long run? What are they doing? So the trading traders have impossible standards, perfectionist strategies, and they don't want to have losing spells. They don't want to take a loss. They get so down on themselves when they're not perfect. And the successful traders, they don't care about perfection. They care about performance. They look at the big picture. Now, what I always say is what makes you so special that you have to be perfect and everyone else doesn't need to be perfect. So I look at Linda Rashke when I was working with her last year, when I was trading with, when I was in her trading room, she missed so many trade setups and she made so many mistakes, and yet she made so much money. So that is not where the solution lies. It's knowing when to go big. It's knowing when to do what needs to be done that really makes a difference. And I was working with a trader who said he needs to catch all 10 out of his 10 setups when there are 10 opportunities in his trading session. And like, that's perfectionist. It's setting an impossible standard. It's exhausting. So that's not what it's about. It's about, did you make money? Did you perform? I look at the big picture, not did you take every setup. Now, fading traders, they want to avoid this discomfort of those 8 emotions. They want to escape them. They don't want to feel them. So they come to me and they say, can you help me to take my losing trades? So how do I do that? I ask them. They say, well, if I stop feeling bad about losing trades, if I feel good about taking losing trades, then I can do it too. And it's like, well, here's the newsflash for you. None of us feels good about taking a losing trade. It's just something that we do anyway, even though it feels whatever it feels. We don't focus on how we feel. We focus on what needs to be done. That's the difference. right? So trading traders that go overly dramatic, they indulge in this feeling bad and self-blame. And I had a trader who emailed me his statistics, and in the headline was, "I fucked up again." It's like, dude, keep it together, keep the drama on the inside, because if you spill your drama, if you spill your poison, you make other people feel bad. That's not okay. Keep it on the inside, stay professional. Look at what happened. Say, so he would start his sentences with, today was a good day, today was a bad day. So judgmental, judgmental, judgmental. When you are so judgmental, of course you're going to perform. Stay practical, stay objective, and stay, um, um, you know, where you don't let the drama out, because then you get addicted to drama, because drama starts feeling good to you. So it's really important that you stay objective, that you say, today I had this loss. These are the areas of improvement. These are the areas that I did really well, that I will do more tomorrow. Yeah, keep it like that. You missed a few trades and your little voice starts to complain, your feelings, your emotions starts up. That's like completely out of, um, what's, it's not a big deal, a big deal is the coronavirus right now, people dying. That's a big deal. If you miss the trade, so what? You get the next one. And so try to keep it all into perspective. And that's really important. What I find a lot of traders, they feel they want to do only what they feel like doing. So they would, for example, let's say, have a lunch meeting with a friend. Let's say, let's meet for lunch next week, Wednesday. And then Wednesday comes an hour earlier, they don't feel like getting dressed, having a shower, and they call their friend and say, I'm sorry, I can't make it. Rather than keeping their words and do what needs to be done because they said so. And then I promise you, if you still go and meet your friend, you will have a lot of fun. But if you're this kind of person who tends to do what you feel like doing, then you will not succeed in trading or life. Now, on the flip side, when you have someone who so let's say you're in a trade and then someone calls you and they say, oh, I need to talk to you. My boyfriend or my girlfriend just left me. I need to talk to someone. You need to be strong and to say, sorry, I can't right now. It's not a good time. And trust that they will be okay for another hour, that you need to stay with your trade and not feeling guilty, because I can see that happening a lot as well. That, for example, was something that happened to the trader that I was working with yesterday. A lot of guilt and always having the feeling that he had to take care of everyone else and then not taking care of his own trades, right? That's not working. Um, so what I also see is traders want to succeed on their own. And I tell you guys, if you're a lone wolf, nothing great has ever been achieved alone. Nothing. You perform best, human beings perform best when we have a selective team around us. So again, look at Linda. Linda knows her weaknesses so well. She knows herself so well. So she has Kyle, the amazing Kyle, as her assistant. So she looks at whom can she have around herself to make up for the weaknesses that she has, so she can focus on her strengths. Yeah, and it's the same, like be around a group of amazing traders. I never talk about my trades. I'm in the Skype group and we never mention what our trades are. We talk about the markets. So that's where my boundaries are, because I know the moment when I talk about my trades, my confirmation bias kicks in. And unconsciously, I tend to hang on to losing trades or hang on to trades that aren't working longer because of this unconscious behavior confirmation bias. So again, it comes down to knowing yourself. That might not be the case for everyone, but I know that's the case for me. Yeah. So for the over dramatizing as well, like you didn't let your profits run to the exact turning point. What's the big deal? It happens to everyone, right? It's like saying, oh, I went to this buffet and I didn't eat the whole thing. Well, you would never eat the whole buffet. You only pick out what you like eating. Yeah, so these are the things that I see with traders who are failing. Whereas when you look at successful traders, again, the perfectionist who sets these impossible standards, who wants to have a 90% profit loss ratio, I wonder what is the level of insecurity that they have to compensate for. the traders who want to have a 20/20 vision. They want to know exactly what is happening so that they don't make mistakes. What is your level of insecurity? What is it you're afraid of? And say, I'm okay with a 50/50 profit loss ratio as long as I make money. So it all comes down to money management and risk management, right? And when it comes to statistics, every mathematician will tell you that the sweet spot is about 65, 70%. A 90% profit loss ratio is almost impossible to sustain over the long run. If you do that, your money and risk management is out of whack, and you have been lucky that the market has been running in your favor. Yeah, so when you feel like someone who wants to avoid discomfort and only wants to do what they feel like doing, what I see with traders who are successful, they love a good challenge. They seek out 30-day challenges like, I'm going to cut out carbs for 30 days. I'm going to do push-ups for 30 days. I'm going to fast for 7 days. So these kind of challenges that make them stronger and better, and that they can measure themselves, and that they know they're going to have a challenge, that it will be hard, and they're going to love doing that because they love a good challenge. Yeah, so traders who don't want to take their losses, that is childlike thinking. That is what we call magical thinking in performance psychology, and also in child psychology. So children up to the age of 10, they have magical thinking. Someone will come and rescue them. They have imaginary friends. And so if you think the market will magically turn around and go back into profit, then that is magical thinking. Then you have not learned how to take responsibility for your life. And if you look at Oprah, Oprah's purpose with her show was teaching people how to take responsibility for their lives. That's her theme. And if you have magical thinking, then you know you need to learn to take responsibility, because you would be someone who has been rescued everywhere in your life. You didn't need to learn how to take responsibility. You have never learned how to become a problem solver, how to become solution focused. And so that is something that you need to learn to train. So consider that everything that that behavior that you display now is the behavior that you have trained and learned to do. And then you simply need to go into a retraining camp and learn to do the behaviors that help you to become successful. Yeah, it's nothing else. So when you look at, what else do we have? Yeah, strong in structures, habits, and routines. If you're someone who doesn't like habits, routines, and structure, so for example, if you do, let's say, a timetable for today, and you say at 12 o'clock I get up and go to the gym, but at 12 o'clock there is, let's say, a trade setup, and you don't go to the gym, or it's at 12 o'clock, at 11:30, a friend calls and says, hey, let's go out for lunch, and you're like, all right, okay, let's go out for lunch. When you're that unruly, that will show in your trading. So what I always do is, I'm like, oh, 12 o'clock, I have to go to the gym. And I know when I have been sitting all morning, I know that I don't have the energy, right? My energy is stuck. And so I need to get my energy going. And I'm like, oh, I don't feel like going. Oh, it's raining so much today. And I say, okay, so I don't feel like doing, so I have to go. I have to do it, because simply I don't feel like doing it, because that will otherwise play out in my trading, because I can't trust myself to do what I said I do. Because if I don't go now to the gym, even though I don't feel like going, I won't close out my trade that I don't feel like closing out, that I have to close out before it falls into a catastrophe. And so it's the same when I don't go to the gym. I feel bad about myself. I know that. And if I don't take a trade that I need to get out, I know I feel bad about myself. And that then becomes the reinforcing effect where we can't trust ourselves. And because we can't trust ourselves, we feel bad about ourselves. Because we feel bad about ourselves, we take shitty trade setups. We don't follow our strategy. And so the vicious circle continues. What I do, for example, when it comes to not wanting to do something now. So let's say I said I'm going to clean my house. I'm like, oh, I don't feel like cleaning my house. I do it tomorrow. I say to myself, tomorrow doesn't exist. I need to do it now because I said I want to do it tomorrow. So tomorrow doesn't exist. I do it now. When I say to myself, I bet the trade's going to turn around the moment I get out of this losing trade, I say to myself, yes, most probably it will. Because that's Murphy's Law, it always does. Anka has been there, we all have been there. We took this stupid, actually last night, I was long the DAX from the day before. But we know what happened, right? The DAX just came down. I'm like, I gave up on it. I got out at a loss, quite a big loss, or bigger loss that I would like to, and then this thing rallies up all the way. So I didn't need to take that loss. Now that this happens, I know that this morning I need to be careful because I still have this thing from last night where I got punished for doing the right thing. Now I'm aware that I'm prone to making a mistake, and I need to make sure that I'm back in balance first, that I don't have an emotional attachment to what happened last night, that I got out at a big loss when I could have had a big profit. And then only then I go back into the market. So this is being so self-aware. And this is also how I talk to myself then, right? So um, that is part of the preparation routine where I look at, am I out of balance? Am I prepared for today's trading session or not? No, I'm not, because I'm out of balance. So I'm not going to trade the first hour of the XJO, the Aussie market. Yeah? So this is how important it is. Now, cognitive dominance is, in its essence, the ability not to listen to that little voice that wants to take the easy way out and avoid taking care of business, avoid taking responsibility. That's all it is. If you don't do what your strategy tells you to do, you are not taking responsibility for your life. Because here's the thing, guys, freedom is not free. You got to fight for it by learning mentally how to engage whatever your issue is and get help. You can't do it on your own. Like, so our unconscious stuff is so deeply, deeply buried. We can't bring it out alone. So get help. Don't be a lone wolf. And it's so much more fun, I can tell you that. Now, for many people to get help is also very scary. It's they feel afraid of being found out. They feel afraid of being vulnerable. And I want to assure you that every stupid mistake you've made, Anka and I have done 10 million times, because most probably we have been trading longer than you. We all have done it. And we are still out there on top. Right? So that is not the problem. The problem is if you don't deal with it, if you keep it a secret, and you need to feel you have the need to hide it, because that is only your toxic shame that is wanting you to not come out with it. Yeah. So then you need to deal with your toxic shame and be okay, right, guys? There's really, I always try to be open about all the mistakes that I made, the stupid things, the things that I regret making in my life. And so to make it okay for everyone else. Do I feel vulnerable and exposed? Yes, I do. Um, but then I think, who cares? I'm in my little room trading the market. Most people I don't know, let them go nuts. I just put them on mute. So if we look at pressure, right? When pressure starts to come in and those little voices start to go nuts, observe yourself. Whom are you going to morph into under this pressure? Because pressure reveals character. No matter how many promises you make to yourself to be good this time, and how you laid out your plan on how to respond, when the pressure, when the stress comes, your true behavioral patterns come out, and you would revert back to what you have been trained on in the past. So you need to make sure, like a Navy SEAL, that you learn to respond to pressure really quickly. And that is nothing but practice. It's something that you can train yourself to do. Right? So it's a skill and an art, it's a muscle that you practice. So for example, when I take, let's say, cold showers, or I was swimming a lot in the cold lake when I was over in Switzerland. And why I did that was because I wanted to train myself to not listen to that little voice, because every time I was standing at this side of the lake and was ready to jump into the lake, I knew it's going to be cold. It was like, oh my God, I don't want to do it. And then I would just practice not listen to that little voice that wanted to deter me, and go to that restaurant, that beautiful place on top of the lake, and have a nice lunch there. So this is how you practice, how you do that. So seek out challenges that teach you to be dominant, to fight, that brings out the fighting spirit. Yeah, that tames your unruly mind. That's all there is, where you demand discipline from your body, from yourself. Because what you need to do is you demand that finger to press that mouse button. And it can be so incredibly hard, isn't it? It's so funny. But you demand of yourself not to listen to that little voice because you listen to your trading strategy. You condition to it into your body. You draw it into your nervous system because you have that desire, that hunger to succeed. And you expand your comfort zone by seeking out challenges. I always say don't get out of your comfort zone, because then that's areas where you make a lot of mistakes. Expand it. That is the way to sustainably do it. And because what I have noticed in the 75% who are afraid and resent being challenged, they want to always be comfortable and mollycoddled. They don't want to be faced with the truth. Yeah, so that is what needs to be done. Now, what you can also do to help your body is to start controlled breathing. The breath is so powerful. And did you know that when you breathe deeply, so yogic breath, for example, what you do in yoga, you actually massage your brain? And that's why yogic breathing, which is simply, for example, one is to close down one nostril, breathe through the other, and then close down the other nostril and breathe out through the other side, right? So you get the gist. Or, there's a lot of breathing sequences that Tony Robbins does as well that I do in the morning. So you breathe in for 4 counts, you hold for 8 counts, you breathe out for 16 counts. Or you do very rapid breathing that oxygenizes your brain and your body. So that really helps cognitive dominance as well, because it's kind of like you draw the experience of power, of energy, of strength into your body, which when we sit on the computer for 10 hours to trade is not going to happen. And so I remember there's this girl, she was at the time 16 years, Jade Harmeister. She crossed the poles, all poles alone with her father and a Navy SEAL coach. And she shared in an interview how sometimes she just did not want to go on. She just wanted to sit down in the snow in the middle of nowhere. Her feet were bleeding, everything was hurting, and she wanted to give up. And her coach taught her in that moment the only strategy that will help her to overcome this and to get through this, because it's not a good idea to just stop in the middle of the North Pole and not to want to continue, was to push even harder, to walk even faster, no matter the feeling, the voices inside. And soon enough, those voices would shut up. She would get back into the zone and the feelings would subside, because what we know from feelings and emotions, so emotions are chemical reactions, feelings are the stuff that we made up, the meaning that we give those chemical reactions in our body, and they naturally subside after a while. So if you are someone who has addictive behavior like chocolate, alcohol, sex, shopping, trading, right? Know that it takes at, at most 45 minutes for that feeling to subside. So entertain yourself, like the marshmallow project that they did with the little kids, and entertain yourself until this chemical reaction gets out of your body. Do something that makes you feel strong and good, like the breathing, for example. So the joy in this is the breakthrough that you get from doing it. Now, again, structures, routines, and habits for success. That is something, if you don't have it, you need to cultivate. It's a muscle to practice and to train and to learn. If you have no structure and you completely resent routines, then start with making your bed. Start with doing the dishes every time after you had your breakfast and your dinner. Do the things that you don't feel like doing. Say, I really don't want to do it right now. Why you don't want to do it? Well, then you have to do it. I found it really interesting. Just a little story for you. I'm running out of time again. Um, so I was taking care of my friend's son, and she had to go to work early. So she asked me if I can take him to work. And he was playing computer games at my place, and I asked him at 8:30 when he had to leave. I said, "You need to go now." And he said, "Just one more game, please, and I'm almost finished." And I said, "Okay, another 10 minutes." Then he was like, oh my God, I'm not done, please, another 5 minutes. And I said, no, you have to go now. And I became really strict with him. I said, you got to go now. And I thought, wow, I'm so strict with him. I let myself off the hook all the time. I need to be as strict with him as with me as I'm with him, because I had his best in I had the best intentions for him. I wanted him to be in time for school. I wanted him to learn discipline because I didn't learn it when I was growing up. So the things that we expect of other people, hey, we have to start with that with ourselves first. Yeah, and I see that with parents all the time. They have these expectations of their children, but they don't do it themselves. If you say to your child, you have to go to school even if you don't feel like it, well, you have to take that loss even if you don't feel like it. Because if you don't direct your mind, if you don't condition it, your mind, your emotions will mess with you. And I guess what I really want you to realize is you don't have to do this shit really. This holding on to losing trade, this impulsive trading, this jumping into runaway trades, all that stuff. Prime your mind. Start every day with priming your mind. You know, the cold water, the breathing patterns, the doing the things that you don't like doing. Like, know that when your back is against the wall, you do your best work. And then, of course, have realistic expectations and benchmarks. That's really hard for you guys, for anyone who's a retail trader, because what is realistic? Where do we find realistic? Most retail traders have not seen trading statistics. So I show them actually my private clients. I show my stats to my clients so they can see what it looks like in real time. They have never seen anyone live trading. That's what you get from Anka, right? So you get to see her trades, you get to see to her setups, you get to work with her. So that's what it's all about. Now, just 2 more minutes. The fastest way the fastest way to become successful in trading is to model those who already succeeded. Yeah, so this is Linda's first talk. Come on, Linda, let's go. Fight. You got to get that money back. You can do it. Yeah, so she talks to herself and she's like, I'm going to focus. I'm going to buckle down and focus. Because what most people do is when they get under stress and pressure in a painful trade, they start distracting themselves. They go on Twitter, Facebook, they start telling everyone what loser they are. No, you just need to buckle down, focus, and get your money back. And so um, I encourage you to read Linda's book, Trading Sardines, because that will help you to understand what cognitive dominance really is and understand how how you can do it too, because you can see the examples. Again, most traders that don't have an example of what it means, and so that's why it's really hard for them to cultivate it. I'm running a 4-week intensive at the moment. I just had my first session yesterday. If I get enough new people joining the course, then I'm happy to rerun the session. Otherwise, there's still enough time to join it. It's only 299 Australian dollars, and with the Aussie dollar having collapsed so much, it's really cheap for you American guys to buy the course. I keep that course on purpose available for everyone because that's my purpose, I guess. I want to help everyone. For my one-on-one sessions are more expensive, of course, because it's my time. But if you want to join, please feel free. Information are on tradingpsychology.com.au. And what I always say, every successful trader has a dark past, and every losing trader has a bright future. So thank you so much, everyone. I will look at the answer. Sorry, I just need to get some more water.
Thank you so much, Mandi. And guys, trust me, think about this. How much money did you lose on your last trade? Was it because of mentality? Was it because of fear? And you could have had a better outcome of the trade. Trading psychology is so important. This is something that we struggle with as traders every single day. We have those demons, and I think that